Are you a leader, manager, entrepreneur, business owner, or knowledge worker? Are you leading people or wondering how to be a better leader in your own life and work? If you are, then you can be experimenting better. Welcome to The Experimental Leader, a podcast that takes a look at the ways leaders are experimenting in their own work. Hosted by Melanie Parrish, we dive into real-life conversations about how people might be using a scientist's mindset and experimenting in their work. Shift your leadership into something that works better. Join us on The Experimental Leader today.
Hey everybody, it's super great to be here with you live today. I'm really excited about our show today. And I just kind of wanted to tell you I'm in my childhood bedroom because I have migrated to New Mexico until May, and I'm super excited to be here. One of my sons is swimming and enrolling in school here because of the COVID shutdowns in Ontario. And so I'm a little off kilter, but I had this conversation with my husband when we were trying to decide whether or not I could go away for 5 months. And I said, are we going to be okay? And he said, Melanie, we are fine. And it's had me just his attitude about it. Like, he was so solid in his sort of assertion that we're okay. It's okay to go do what our kids need. And it has me thinking about, like, when should we just allow ourselves to be okay as leaders? When do we need to settle in and not be stirring up trouble and looking for problems and trying to process the next thing? When is the most powerful thing we can do as we lead our own lives just to be okay? To be okay that you don't have your things, to be okay that you don't get everything that you want, to be okay that the food comes out different than how you ordered it. So my challenge to you this week is, how can you just be more okay with what is? Today, I am so excited to welcome Josh Little, and he's the founder of 4 tech companies, Maestro, Bloomfire, Quizzer, and Volley. And they've been collectively used by hundreds of millions of people and featured in TechCrunch, Mashable, Entrepreneur, Inc., and Forbes. And he's had 2 successful exits, and a third is anticipated. And he's currently on a mission to help remote team communication suck less with his 4th creation, Volley. I am so excited to get to have this conversation. I love talking to serial entrepreneurs. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure. And I'm trying to just take your advice, being okay with what is. That's sage advice. So I'll run with that.
Yeah. What has your interest about that? What's interesting to, I mean, we're talking about how to help remote communication suck less. So, we're sort of in there already. And what caught your attention in the idea of just being okay with what is?
Well, in the stage of growth that we are at Volley, we're a young company just trying to gain traction and find product market fit. Sometimes you do need to be patient, and you kind of need to wait for growth to happen and wait for that moment. And if you synthesize things or try too hard, you can ignore very important and delicate data that point you in the right direction. So that just feels like the right advice for me today as the leader of this company and flying by the gauges that we're looking at.
That's really nice. And I think startups are maybe have a little more of that. Like in a startup, you don't have all of the structures that you can lean on. So sometimes it's okay to wait to create those structures. Sometimes it's worth the rush and the heartache to do things quickly, but sometimes it's okay to let things be and to enjoy them. Enjoy where you are, because each step has strengths and weaknesses, I think, in a company.
Absolutely. And it's hard to smartly separate those two. And when are you moving too fast and too hastily? And when are you moving too slow and need to step it up?
Yeah, and I'm curious, like, about that leadership piece. You leading a company, you've led successful companies before. What are you experimenting with in your own leadership right now? What are you thinking about in 2022?
Yeah, so we've my co-founder and I've kind of coined this phrase called continuous leadership, and it's really what's happening as a byproduct of the product that we're building, Volley, which is it's a video messaging app that allows you to have asynchronous video conversation. So what does that even mean? Well, we take turns just like any other conversation, except we record our turn with video. You and I have taken a few turns already in this conversation, and synchronicity, being in the same time, the same place, is good for some things, but not everything. And there's a lot of communication that can happen asynchronously. This is why we have chat tools and email and text and all of those things. So Volley very much marries the richness of talking face to face with the flexibility of texting, and that's the idea of the video messaging app. And so what that enables as a leader is me to continuously sync up, check in, unblock, inspire in a way that is outside of time or place. I can say what I need to say, move on with my day. I can answer that question, check in with one of our engineers, do my stand up, and all, simultaneously help 3 of our users in the first 12 minutes of my day, because I'm in these flexible conversations that I can just pop in, show up face to face, and then pop out of. And the people on the other side of that conversation can pick up that Volley in, whenever it's convenient for them. They can listen to me on 2x, and they can have total recall of the conversation and go back. And when they ask me a question back, I can take whatever, a few seconds or a few minutes, whatever it takes for me to feel like I've composed a thoughtful answer, and come back with hopefully something that's much better than if we were even sitting face to face. So that's beauty. And what that's enabled in me as a leader is this, what we're feeling is this idea of continuous leadership. And we've seen that with many of our users and the teams that are using it, or the coaches who are using it, is like just in time coaching, where as someone who's had an executive coach for a number of years, Suzanne's great, but Thursday at 3:30 is, sometimes I have content, sometimes I don't, sometimes I'm ready to talk, sometimes I'm not. And really I need her Tuesday at 7 and Monday at 3, rather than Thursday at 3:30, right? So that's what Volley's enabling in that conversation, as well as many of our users, which is exciting. Kind of a new way to lead, which is on demand.
Yeah, it's a really interesting concept. And I've used a different sort of text, like a voice program, for a while with my clients. And it's interesting to think of video and what that offers. And who do you find is like totally gung-ho about Volley, and who do you think is reluctant?
Well, it's, talking about experiments, we thought who would be totally gung-ho, at least on paper, would be remote teams, because, communication is at an all-time low, loneliness is at an all-time high, connection, collaboration is just strained when you're remote. It's harder to move things forward, it's harder to communicate. So we thought, oh, this would be the perfect tool. And while we had thousands of teams adopt Volley, and that's really exciting, and there's a bunch of teams that are tearing it up, the reproducibility was just hard for us to find there. And at the same time, we saw all of these coaches and YouTube creators and consultants who are doing client work or coaching or have courses or building communities pick up Volley as like a flexible face-to-face way to engage their audience, or to have a little VIP superfans club, or to have the discussion around their course, or to do their one-on-one coaching in an on-demand way. And so when we looked at teams, our deliberate strategy, our experiment, like why we built Volley, and what our sense was, versus all of these other use cases, which are just impossible to ignore. They're just exploding. They're tearing the product up. They're finding reasons to build new features. They're needing, threaded replies because the space is just too busy. And we're like, okay, I guess we're building it for them. Okay, let's pay more attention to them. And this has happened just in the last couple of months for us, which is exciting. I mean, we're just looking for a starving crowd and a great, a killer use case to take this product and run with it. We're just trying to build a better way for the world to communicate, and we're happy for whoever is happy with that solution. And so we're excited to be working with the solopreneurs and the coaches and the creators of the world.
I'm curious whether or not, as you use this tool, because I'm guessing you're one of the biggest users of this tool, do you find it speeds up where you're just on all the time because you're communicating so much more frequently with so many more people?
Yeah, it just gets to the point. Like meetings and synchronicity has so much bad behavior surrounding it. Us getting together on a call, they just soak up whatever time you give them. So, this is Parkinson's Law. Like, if you give a meeting an hour, magically it'll take an hour. Magically what you needed to talk about was 1 hour long or a half an hour long. And really the reason we're getting together is we just need to talk, and that doesn't change when we're remote. That, we still need to talk to move work forward. And getting in a room or on a Zoom is the only way we've been able to historically do it. But now we have a new way, which is to Volley. And what we find is a lot of things that would have been meetings really were just a couple of volleys. Like, I just needed to talk through my problem. I needed to verbalize that out loud in a way that I'm not going to write a book of an email, but I can say it in like 2 or 3 minutes. I can explain the problem. I needed to show you something. You needed to think about it. You needed to give me feedback. I needed to come back maybe 1 or 2 times, and then it's done. And so what would have been 30 minutes to 60 minutes is really just 3 or 4 volleys, and that happened in like 5 or 6 minutes. And because I can listen to you on 2x, you can listen to me on 2x, and we can catch up with the conversation when we have time, which is outside of our deep work. We're not only more productive, we're not only sped up, but I can also take time to think before I respond to you, which educational research shows anytime we can take 3 seconds to think about a question once it's asked, we're going to come up with a fundamentally better response. So Volley kind of speeds up both sides, as well as hopefully enables more thoughtful responses. And so, yeah, that's kind of what we're seeing, is it just kind of erases this magic time box that we tend to put around things.
Mm-hmm. I'm a huge fan of the 15-minute meeting for exactly that reason. Like, if you need another 15 minutes, schedule another 15 minutes, but probably if you schedule 15, you might actually accomplish it in 15.
Right.
So I'm curious, just, I want to just shift gears a little bit. You've founded a bunch of companies and you've exited some, and I'd love to know kind of, when you think, oh, I want to start a company, what's that dream cycle like? What are you dreaming up as you, at the beginning, in the really beginning stages of a company? How does that happen for you?
Well, I'll go back to my first company, Maestro. The dream was, for me, it wasn't really about the type of company or problem. It was more, I knew I was being called to be an entrepreneur. I knew that was inevitable. My wife knew it. I was going to spontaneously combust into an entrepreneur one day. And so, and this is like a 5-year process of like finding the right vehicle. Like what could potentially, keep our family fed while enabling us to, create a business, something, no one in my family or in my circles really had ever done anything like that. So there was a lot of risk. It felt so in the beginning, it was just kind of more practical, like trying to mitigate risk. What could potentially provide a living, something that I could do that we could own, which could be a vehicle to create wealth and to create opportunities for others and those things. So that was the dream in the beginning, is what could possibly do that. And so the dream has evolved for me as an entrepreneur, because it's doable. Okay. Yeah. We've established we can start companies. Okay. And then with Bloomfire, my second company, okay, we've established that Josh can build both service and product companies and tech companies. And okay, check. Now what kind of tech companies matter? And I've shifted to thinking more about the problem, and more about what change do I want to create in the world. And the opportunity to build Volley came honestly after over a dozen experiments over a couple of years of finding the right vehicle. And it was really just kind of, a combination of the pandemic, my love for asynchronous video communication, and having thought about this problem for over a decade, that kind of came together is like, and the technology was finally right to create a new and a better way to communicate face to face, but flexibly. And so, just those sorts of ideas and opportunities come along every so often, and just had to take the opportunity. But for me, still, I view myself as an entrepreneur, much like a painter views themselves. I really care less about what exactly I'm painting, whether this is a street scene or a landscape or a portrait, and more about the craft of painting, more about the craft of entrepreneurship and building this beautiful thing, and how to do that efficiently with, this capital faster than we've done before, and help and serve more people in the process. And what does that even look like? So those are the things that really excite me and call me as or the dream, back to your question.
How do you think about legacy for yourself?
That's not something I think about very often. I don't know why. Not that it's not good. I've found that my calling in life, or my why, is to create beautiful things. And hopefully I leave a legacy of beautiful things. And for me, a beautiful thing can be a piece of furniture. It can be a jar of pickles. It can be a musical performance. I have a talent as a creator, as a musician, as an artist, to create beautiful things. And that's what I feel compelled or called to do in the world. And so companies just happen to be the most challenging creative endeavor that anyone can embark on. Building a company, building something out of nothing that can create life and livelihood and great financial outcomes and touch the lives of millions of people. That's a pretty beautiful thing. And that's a really challenging creative endeavor. So that's why I keep coming back to this, even though I think I'm done. I've thought I was done a couple of times now as an entrepreneur, but then no, the need to create, it just keeps coming back. So maybe that's my legacy, to create beautiful things, but I really don't think about it in terms of legacy. Should I? Is that something I should think about more, Melanie?
No, I mean, I think that you've got like a true north. I love the beautiful things part. I think it's really lovely. And it also gives you the freedom that I want to see in legacy, which is, it's not like you want to make one thing. It's not like it's just pickles, it's art, it's beauty. It's like, so there's so many possibilities in that as a sort of direction. So I think you're on track. I mean, you seem happy. I mean, I don't know.
Good.
I think so.
I'm super happy. I don't have to do this, but I choose to do this. And yeah, it's challenging every time I put on the CEO hat and the founder hat. Ooh, I feel the weight and I think, oh, why did I do this? It's so hard. It's lonely. Hard. It's heavy to be a leader, right?
I agree. Yeah,
but it is also rewarding.
Where can people find you, Josh, and where can they find Volley?
Hard not to find me if you find Volley, because every user is added to a conversation called Hello Volley, which is a direct connection to the team, and I show up there from time to time. So just download Volley and invite some others, and you'll find me for sure if you're looking for me. But if you're looking for a better way to communicate, there's the bonus of that. Or you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there as well.
That's great. And it has been so fun to talk to you about all that you're up to, about how you're thinking about communication. Thank you so much for being here. It's been really fun to have you.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be asked on the show and glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Well, that was really fun. And I love, this idea of Volley as on-demand communication. It fits in line with all of the lean Toyota Kata stuff around just in time. And I love all of that. I think it's really, it's really iterative. So you can have more iteration of exactly what you need to remove bottlenecks and to do it right at the last second, or, to repeat the questions often enough to remove your bottlenecks one after the other, which is like speeding up productivity. So I love that. I want to really invite you to download a copy of my book at digitalbook.experimentalleader.com. And I also want to tell you that offers an opportunity to buy a workbook where you can actually chart your own progress with that book. I really wrote that book. It took me 7 years to write it. And I really like when people get a chance to take their own learning and to think about it and to actually have a place to put that learning and to keep that learning. There's additional questions there. I want it to be, I always dreamed of having that book be like dog-eared and tired and the pages marked and highlighted. And the feedback I often get when people finish it is, oh my gosh, I need to go back and read it again. It's a pretty rich book and has lots of sort of helpful tips to help you lead a team. And so I'd love to hear from you if you buy the book and you have feedback. I have so few feedback looks about, I have so few feedback loops around how people experience the book live. And I'd love to hear that. And I love, yes, Alan, it's so great to have you here. And yes, it is all about removing bottlenecks. The faster you want to go, the more bottlenecks you need to remove. Well, it's been great being here with you today. I challenge you to think about how you change the way you communicate with your team in any way you can think of, and go experiment.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of The Experimental Leader. We hope you have found value in today's episode because we're dedicated to helping you become the experimental leader you want to be. To access the show notes or learn more about working with Melanie, visit melanieparish.com. Go experiment.